retired at 30. People said I was lucky, but lately, it feels like the world's gone quiet in all the wrong ways. I'd spend my days wandering town just to feel alive. That day was no different. I drove to the local supermarket to pick up some things. The sun bright but strangely dim behind a pale haze. The first sign something was off? No one spoke. Not the shoppers, not the cashiers. Everyone moved like clockwork. Blank faces, hands trembling as they filled carts. I felt the tension before I understood it. Then, at 11:55 a.m., every phone in the building buzzed. A deafening chorus of alerts went off simultaneously. I pulled mine out and read, "Emergency alert. Ignore all laughter. Stay indoors. Lock doors and windows by noon. Do not respond to any laughter." Confused murmurs swept through the store until someone laughed. It was a sharp, sudden sound from somewhere near the bakery. Heads snapped toward it. A man stood there, grinning too wide, his eyes bloodshot and tearing red as his laughter deepened, warping into something inhuman. He dropped to his knees, body twitching like a puppet with its strings cut. Then he moved, not like a man. His limbs bent wrong as he scuttled toward a nearby woman, shrieking laughter like a saw blade through metal. People screamed and bolted, but as the clock hit 12 o'clock, it wasn't just him. The laughter began outside. Dozens of voices, deep and hollow, echoed from the streets. Through the wide glass doors of the store, I saw them. Figures walking unnaturally, their faces split with bleeding smiles, pointing at people, laughing until the sound made my teeth ache. The doors slammed shut automatically. My phone buzzed again. "Do not look at them. Do not laugh. If you hear laughter inside, run." Someone in the store couldn't help it. They giggled nervously. The man who'd collapsed turned his head toward them, smiling so wide I thought his jaw would split, and began crawling on all fours, his fingernails ripping up tiles as he charged. The store descended into chaos. People screamed, knocking over shelves as they scrambled for hiding spots. I dove behind the frozen food aisle, heart hammering in my chest. Outside, the laughter grew louder, overlapping into a chorus of hysteria that shook the glass doors. My phone buzzed again. "They will hunt until 2 p.m. Survive until then. 2 hours. 2 hours of this madness." A crash echoed from the front of the store. The first creature outside rammed its head against the glass. Its face was pale, stretched, blood leaking from its eyes and nose. Its mouth opened wide, laughter pouring out like a siren. Others followed, clawing and slamming into the windows, their movements jerky and wrong, like broken mannequins. The man from the bakery was still crawling, chasing the woman who'd giggled. His laughter was louder now, almost drowning out the sounds outside. He pounced on her with unnatural strength, his fingers digging into her skin. I could see blood on the tiles as he tore at her, still laughing like it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. Someone near me sobbed. I grabbed their wrist and hissed, "Don't laugh. Don't even breathe loud." We weren't alone behind the aisle. A few of us, maybe 6, huddled together, frozen, watching the man drag the woman's body into the center of the store. He tilted his head and stared at us. His grin stretched so wide his cheeks split. Then he started to crawl our way. 12:30 p.m. We'd barricaded the aisle with boxes and metal carts, but the sound of glass shattering at the front of the store froze us in place. The creatures were inside. The laughter multiplied, high-pitched, guttural, like every range of voice distorted into insanity. We split up. I ducked into the stockroom with 2 others, a mother and her teenage son. The boy's breathing was too loud, shaky. "Shut up," I whispered, covering his mouth as the laughter slithered closer. Through a crack in the stockroom door, I saw them moving through the aisles. Too tall, their limbs swinging like pendulums. Every time they stopped, their heads snapped around as if listening for something. One of them slowly turned toward our door. The boy whimpered. The sound was barely audible, but the creature heard. 1 p.m. We were running through the back hallways now. Blood splattered on my arm from when the creature grabbed the mother and yanked her screaming into the dark. I didn't look back. couldn't. The boy and I stumbled into the employee lounge and barricaded the door with a vending machine. Outside, the laughter was so loud it felt like it was inside my skull. I checked my phone. 1 p.m. One more hour. The boy was crying silently. I turned off the lights, hoping they couldn't see us. For a while, the hallway was quiet, until something scraped against the vending machine. Then came the laughter. 1:50 p.m. I don't know how I'm still alive. The boy isn't. They got him when I tried to make a run for the loading docks. His screams turned to laughter halfway through as they dragged him into the swarm. The sun was starting to dim, like the daylight itself was sick. My phone buzzed again. 10 minutes. Do not respond to laughter. Through the cracks of the exit door, I could see them outside, just standing there, waiting, blood dripping from their eyes, heads tilted back as they cackled at the sky. 2 p.m. The laughter stopped. Just stopped. When I finally opened the door, the street was empty. No bodies, no blood. Just silence and the warm glow of a normal afternoon. It was as if nothing happened at all. But I know it'll happen again. And next time, maybe 2 p.m. won't come. I didn't sleep. I just sat on my couch, replaying the screams, the laughter, and that eerie silence when it all stopped. By 6 a.m., I convinced myself maybe I'd gone crazy. Maybe it was some mass hysteria, until my phone buzzed again. Emergency alert. Next event expected 11 a.m. Prepare. The words sent ice down my spine. Yesterday it was noon. Today earlier. I grabbed my car keys and drove to town. The streets were alive with panic. People hammering boards over windows, dragging kids inside. The grocery store where I'd been trapped was already locked and abandoned. Spray painted across its front doors were the words, "Don't laugh. They hear it." 10:30 a.m. The alerts were coming faster. Phones were blaring from every direction. People huddled indoors, but I saw some laughing, nervous, forced. They were cracking under the tension. I wanted to scream at them to stop. Then I saw something that made my stomach drop. A man in a business suit stood in the middle of the intersection, smiling. Not nervous smiling. No, this was wide, unnatural, like his face was carved into a grin. Blood trickled from the corners of his mouth. He started laughing. The air temperature dropped. I swear I could see my breath. 11 a.m. It began again. The laughter spread through the streets like a disease. People who'd been normal moments ago began bending at strange angles, their faces tearing into smiles too wide for human skin. They laughed until their throats gurgled. I ran for my car. My phone buzzed. Survive until 2 p.m. 3 hours. The creatures from yesterday emerged again, crawling from alleyways, their long limbs dragging against the pavement. The sound of them laughing in unison was enough to make me want to rip my ears off. 11:30 a.m. I barricaded myself inside a diner with a few strangers. An older man with a shotgun, a young woman holding a baby, and a teenager shaking so hard I thought his teeth might break. The old man looked at me. "You saw them yesterday too, didn't you?" I nodded. "What are they?" He pumped the shotgun. "Not human. Never were. They come when the clock hits the hour, and the laughter calls them." The baby made a soft sound. The old man tensed. "Don't let it cry. For God's sake, don't let it cry." 12:15 p.m. The front window shattered. One of the things crawled through, its face split down the middle, jaw swinging like a broken hinge. It laughed in a soundless wheeze as it sprinted across the ceiling, claws scraping the tiles. The old man fired. The thing didn't stop. Blood sprayed everywhere. The teenager tried to run, tripped, and the creature was on him in seconds, tearing at his throat as laughter sprayed out of its mouth like static. We ran for the back kitchen. I grabbed a cleaver. It wasn't much, but I wasn't dying like that. 1:50 p.m. There's just me and the baby now. The woman is gone. I don't even know when it happened. One moment she was there, the next she was gone, dragged screaming into the horde outside. The creatures are pounding on the walls, laughing so loud it feels like my skull is cracking. I hold the baby tight, praying to a God I stopped believing in years ago. 2 more minutes. 2 p.m. Silence. I staggered outside. The street was clean again. No blood, no bodies. But this time I saw something I didn't yesterday. Far down the road, in the direction of the forest, a tall figure stood, watching me, tilted its head and smiled. I should have gone home. I should have pretended none of it was real. But that tall figure on the road, its silhouette stretched unnaturally against the pale sky, kept pulling me forward. It didn't move like something alive. It just stood there, twitching in small, sudden jerks, head tilted, as if it was listening to something I couldn't hear. I followed. The farther I walked, the quieter the town became. Not just silent, dead. Even the air felt heavy, like breathing underwater. When I reached the woods, the figure slipped between the trees without a sound. I hesitated, but something in my gut told me the answers were there. The forest was wrong. The trees weren't straight, leaning as if something heavy had dragged across them. There was a sour, metallic stench hanging in the air, like rotting blood. Every step I took, I expected to hear twigs snapping or leaves rustling. But there was nothing, just silence. Then it came. Laughter. Not a single voice. Dozens. Hundreds. A tangled mass of sound, high-pitched and guttural, like every tone of human laughter mashed together. It didn't sound happy. It sounded broken. I pushed through the undergrowth and found the clearing. The ground was soaked dark, almost black. In the center was a mound. At first, I thought it was a pile of dirt, but as I stepped closer, I saw arms, legs, faces. Dozens of them, twisted and fused together, their mouths wide open and spilling out that horrible laughter. Blood dripped from their eyes, their skin twitching as if they were still trying to escape each other. The tall figure was gone, but I could feel it watching me from somewhere close. My phone buzzed. Emergency alert. Early cycle detected. Next event, 4 p.m. Find shelter. I checked the time. 3:10 p.m. The pile shifted, a ripple moving through the bodies as they started to convulse. Their mouths widened until skin tore. The laughter grew so loud I dropped to my knees, clutching my ears. Then the mound started to collapse. The bodies moved, crawling. Their limbs were bent wrong, but they dragged themselves toward me, their mouths shrieking laughter that felt like it was burrowing into my skull. I turned and ran. I tore through the forest, branches clawing at my arms, the sound of that laughter following me like a storm. Every time I stumbled, I swore I could feel cold fingers brushing against my back. It didn't fade. It didn't slow. It followed me all the way to the edge of town. The streets were worse than before. It wasn't 4 p.m. yet, but people were already changing. A woman stood in the middle of the road, her hands clamped over her face as if trying to hold something in. Her shoulders shook violently. Then, with a horrible, wet snap, her jaw split too wide, and she started laughing, deep, guttural, unnatural. Her eyes rolled back, and blood poured down her cheeks. Cars were abandoned, doors left hanging open. Phones buzzed on sidewalks. The alerts wouldn't stop flashing. Early event in progress. Find shelter. Do not respond to the laughter. I ducked into a hardware store. Inside, a few people were already hiding behind overturned shelves. Their faces were pale, their breathing shallow. One man was clutching a crowbar so tightly his knuckles were white. Then outside, the laughter grew louder. Through the cracks of the boarded windows, I saw them. Figures stumbling in from the street, their bodies jerking unnaturally, their limbs far too long. They were scanning, listening. One of them stopped, its head snapping toward the store like it heard us breathing. The man with the crowbar whispered, "Don't laugh. Don't make a sound." His voice cracked, like he was on the edge of losing it. One of the creatures pressed its face against the window, smiled, blood running down its chin. The first attack came fast. The door slammed open, splinters flying as the thing lunged inside. Its laughter was deafening up close, like static and screaming layered into one awful sound. The man with the crowbar swung, connecting with its head. It didn't even slow down. I grabbed him and yelled, "Run!" Though my own voice was trembling. We scattered through the aisles, the sound of shattering glass and manic laughter chasing us. It's 3:40 p.m. 20 minutes left. I'm in the storage room now, crouched behind crates of paint. The crowbar man is gone, dragged off by something I didn't dare watch for too long. The laughter is right outside the door. It's like they know I'm here. The laughter outside the storage room was like nails in my skull, rising and falling in an unnatural rhythm, like they were communicating. Every few seconds, I could hear something dragging across the door, a long, slow scrape of nails or teeth on wood. I checked my phone. 3:45 p.m. 15 minutes. Just 15 minutes. I pressed my back against the wall, trying not to breathe too loudly. My heart was pounding so hard I thought they'd hear it. Something slammed against the door. Once, twice. Then the handle rattled. I shoved a crate of paint thinner in front of it, praying the flimsy lock would hold. The laughter grew louder, too loud. It wasn't just outside anymore. I froze. It was inside the storage room. I turned my head slowly, and that's when I saw it. Half hidden behind a stack of boxes, a figure crouched low. Its back was to me, its shoulders jerking violently as it laughed in this horrible, gurgling tone. It turned its head too far, until its face was upside down, grinning at me with blood pouring from its eye sockets. I lunged for the nearest thing I could grab, a rusted pipe, and swung. The thing collapsed with a wet crack, but even as it twitched on the floor, it kept laughing, a broken, sputtering sound that made bile rise in my throat. The others outside heard. 3:50 p.m. The door began to break. Splinters flew as their claws tore through the wood. Shadows shifted under the crack at the bottom, and I could see their limbs dragging across the floor. There were so many of them now, their laughter overlapping into something that didn't sound human at all. I didn't think. I grabbed a crowbar from the corner and smashed the back window. Glass rained down as I scrambled out into the alley, cutting my arms and hands on the jagged edges. I hit the pavement hard but forced myself up, ignoring the blood soaking into my sleeves. They were everywhere, pouring out of houses, crawling down walls, their heads snapping toward me the second I moved. 3:55 p.m. 5 minutes. That's all I had to survive. I sprinted toward the gas station across the street, but one of them dropped from a rooftop, landing on all fours right in front of me. Its jaw split open, laughter shrieking into my ears. I swung the crowbar with everything I had. I felt its skull cave in, but it didn't stop laughing. Even as it collapsed, twitching, the sound kept coming. 3:59 p.m. I crashed through the gas station's doors, barricading them with whatever I could find. My chest was on fire. I could see the swarm outside now, pressing against the glass, their faces cracking and bleeding as they laughed in unison. The clock on my phone turned to 4 p.m. Everything stopped. No movement, no sound. The creatures froze, their heads tilting, then slowly, they all turned away and walked back into the streets, their laughter trailing off into the distance. I stood there for what felt like hours, shaking, unable to move. When I finally stepped outside, the town was quiet again. No blood, no bodies, as if nothing had happened. But my phone buzzed one last time. Warning. Next event expected 6 p.m. It's getting faster. I didn't even go home. There was no point. The alerts were coming earlier, and now they lasted longer. My phone lit up again at 4:30 p.m. Warning. Next event begins at 6 p.m. Duration estimated 5 hours. Survive until 11 p.m. 5 hours of them. I didn't think anyone could last that long without going insane. I raided the gas station for supplies, bottled water, canned food, a flashlight, and anything I could use as a weapon. The crowbar stayed gripped in my left hand, sticky with dried blood I didn't have time to clean off. As I stuffed supplies into a backpack, I heard something shuffle in one of the aisles. "Hello," I called before I could stop myself. A woman's head slowly peeked out from behind a rack of snacks. She looked normal, shaken but normal. "They're coming back," she whispered. "They'll stay longer this time." I stared at her, trying to read her expression. But then I saw the corner of her mouth twitch. Just slightly. "You okay?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just kept smiling wider. Blood started to seep from her gums. And then she laughed. I ran. I left her in that store, the sound of her laughter chasing me down the street. By 5 p.m., I found an old auto shop with a steel door and no windows. Perfect. I dragged in anything I could find to block the entrance. Tires, tool cabinets, heavy shelves. I set up my supplies in the corner, gulping down water to keep my dry throat from cracking. The streets outside were already too quiet. Not natural quiet. That thick, smothering kind of silence that feels alive. 5:30 p.m. The first wave of laughter started early. Just faint giggles at first, drifting in from the distance. My phone buzzed again. Seek immediate shelter. Do not respond to the laughter. If infected, isolate yourself immediately. Infected. The word stuck in my brain. Was this some kind of virus? Something spreading through sound? 5:59 p.m. The laughter swelled like a rising tide. I gripped the crowbar and flashlight, staring at the steel door as if it was the only thing keeping me from being swallowed alive. My phone flashed one last time before the event began. Survive until 11 p.m. Then the first pounding hit the door. 6:10 p.m. They were out there, dozens of them. Their laughter rose and fell like waves. Scratching, clawing. Some of them whispered between the laughter, just low enough for me to almost make out words. But I didn't dare listen too closely. I shoved my backpack against the door, crouching behind a workbench, crowbar in hand. I tried eating some canned beans, but I couldn't even swallow. My throat was dry, my stomach clenched. 5 hours. I just had to hold out for 5 hours. 7 p.m. The first dent appeared in the steel door. I hadn't moved in nearly an hour. My legs were cramping, but I didn't dare shift. The tapping hadn't stopped. It crawled across the walls like ants, moving from one corner of the shop to another, always in patterns. It wasn't random, and that was what scared me the most. They didn't know I was in here. Not yet. The creatures were searching, feeling every surface like blind predators sensing warmth. Sometimes they pressed against the metal, and I could hear their nails or bones, scraping lightly, dragging in long strokes as if they were mapping the shape of the building. Every time they passed by the steel door, I stopped breathing. 8:05 p.m. The first whisper started. It wasn't laughter, not this time. It was soft, broken murmuring. Words I couldn't make out, like something trying to imitate human speech. I crawled lower, pressing myself against the cold concrete floor, trying to make myself small and invisible. I gripped the crowbar but prayed I wouldn't need it. 8:45 p.m. One of them lingered near the front door for a long time. Its shadow slid across the thin crack of light under the frame. Then, tap, tap, tap. Slow, gentle, patient. I bit down on my knuckles to keep from making a sound. It wasn't testing the door's strength. It was listening. I swear I could hear its breathing through the steel, ragged and wheezing, like it was inhaling my fear. After what felt like forever, the shadow shifted and drifted away. 9:20 p.m. The tapping moved to the roof again. I heard something dragging across the shingles, like fingertips raking over metal. Then came a hollow knock right above me. Knock, knock, knock. I froze. I knew if I moved now, they might hear me. I stayed perfectly still, every muscle screaming, while that faint scratching sound circled overhead for minutes that felt like hours. 10 p.m. The noise began to thin out. Less tapping. More footsteps fading into the distance. Maybe they thought this building was empty. Maybe I'd fooled them. I didn't believe it. 10:45 p.m. The last sound I heard was a faint, wet giggle from somewhere in the street. Then silence. I didn't move, not even when my phone buzzed with a new alert. Event ending soon. Remain indoors until 11:05 p.m. The air was heavy with silence. I crouched lower, my knees burning, staring at the dim screen of my phone. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes left. Then something brushed the steel door. Not a knock, not a scrape, just a long, slow drag of nails that made the metal vibrate. It lasted for a full minute. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. 11 p.m. All sounds stopped. The laughter, the scratching, the faint, hollow footsteps outside gone. I stayed still until my phone buzzed with the all clear. Event ended. You may exit safe locations. Even then, I didn't move for another 10 minutes.